Hi, I thought that this week, instead of giving you a lecture, you can use something on, some historical subject. This is probably way more important for you, especially since we're going to start writing short papers this week. So, I decided I would put the short paper questions right here in this presentation, because that way you actually watch it. So, the questions for this short paper, the first short paper, are going to be somewhat basic, but also somewhat difficult because they deal with primary sources. You're going to choose one question and write your paper on the question. I won't read these to you. You can read them yourself. You can pause your YouTube video and read them yourself. If you have any questions about how to answer these questions or some of the ways in which you might frame your paper, you can always email me and ask me, and I'd be happy to help you out. So choose one of these three questions. The first one deals with the film Apocalypto. The second one deals with 1492, and the third one, if you're really an overachiever, or it deals with both of the movies, and I'd be happy to. I will probably grade the third paper a little less harshly since it is a more difficult paper. So just keep that in mind when you're deciding which ones you want to write, which paper you want to write on. So as far as formatting goes, I'd like 2 to 4 pages, double spaced, 12-point font. Or if you're cutting and pasting into the paper box thing, you can use around 5 or more paragraphs. So you can submit either a Word doc, a PDF, or you can actually just cut and paste your paper into Carmen. So for the Word doc and the PDF, you need to use 12-point font so I can read it. Please use something legible, no crazy margins or headers. Basically, do something simple, legible, and easy for me to tell what's going on. I will assume that if you've got crazy headers or margins, you're trying to pull the wool over my eyes and, trying to write a shorter paper, essentially. And, I've been doing this for 6 years or so. I've seen it all. I know when people are trying to get around the word count or the page count. So I would recommend not doing that kind of stuff, making it as easy for me to understand how many pages you're writing as possible. And, if you are trying to pull a fast one on me, it's not like I haven't seen it all before, so I don't recommend it. 2 pages should be hard for you to write 2 pages on this because there's a lot of information you're going to have. So if you're writing a page and a half, you're not following the instructions. You can also cut and paste and just paste your paper into the box. If you do that, sometimes cutting and pasting, the formatting kind of gets wonky. Make sure it's all formatted correctly after you cut and paste. You don't have to indent, but just make sure each paragraph is separated from the next so that I can read it easily and understand where each paragraph starts and stops. I'm not going to grade you on spelling and grammar too much, but you have to be able to express your ideas clearly enough that I can understand. And the easier it is for me to read your paper, the more likely I am to give you a better grade because I'm going to be more cheerful. Let's be honest. It's going to make me happy reading a well-written paper with few typos, few grammatical errors. The same goes for structure. A lot of students make a mistake and don't focus on the structure of their paper, like clearly crafting their paper to make their ideas easy to understand. And if I can't understand your paper, I'm marking points off. If I can't understand what word you're trying to use, or if your grammar means that I can't really understand your argument, or if the structure of your paper is confusing and sort of bounces around, all of this is I'm gonna mark you off because it makes it hard for me to understand your argument. So effective papers, effective papers, and this is for history. This is for history and specifically for my class. Um, the introduction will rephrase. You will have an introductory paragraph which will rephrase the question. It doesn't even have to be super creative. Just rephrase it in a way that makes it understandable. You're going to introduce parts 1, 2, and 3 of your paper. I'm assuming you're going to have at least 3 parts since the question for each film or if each of the 3 questions has at least 3 parts to it. You're going to put all those into one sentence, and that's going to be your thesis statement, which generally goes at the beginning or the end of your introductory paragraph. And remember, this is history. It's not creative writing. Less description is more in the introduction. You want to make your ideas really clear and concise at that part. And then you can go on to a slightly more descriptive body and especially conclusion. So make sure you have your thesis statement that sums up what you're writing about. If you can be somewhat specific in your thesis, not just rephrasing the question completely, but actually adding the parts that you're going to touch on. So really concisely, but just really briefly summarizing each paragraph in one sentence. I know it's it's hard and it's difficult, but you can do it. I know you can. I've seen papers that are like this. That's going to be A+ paper right there if you can do that. If it's more difficult for you to do that, you can always talk to me, send me your paper, and I'll help you out with your thesis statement, since that's a difficult one. So for your body, you're going to have at least 3 paragraphs answering all parts of the question, which follow the thesis. So try to follow the thesis in the order that you mention things in the thesis as well. Paragraphs have to be at least 3 sentences long. Really, for a paper like this, you're talking about 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. Each paragraph should be contained and perhaps hint at the next paragraph. That's like ideal. But each paragraph should contain one idea that you're working on. Don't use I or me too much. This is a history paper. You're going to be talking about your opinion on some of these papers, but this is an objective opinion. You're not trying to state how you feel about something. It's more like, based on my extensive reading, which is not super extensive yet, but you've read quite a few chapters at this point in the textbook, and you've got some primary sources. Based on that, this is the answer to the question that's been posed. And then the conclusion, you're going to have a very short summary followed by something fun. So this is your chance to be a little bit more creative, put your mark on the paper, and this can, in the conclusion, you can use I and me more. You can talk about how you feel about the film, how you feel about the topic, how this relates to your life. All of that is perfectly acceptable in the conclusion. Not really how this history relates to your life is not really acceptable in the introduction and body. It should be focused on answering these questions. So again, remember, these are your citing rules. This is how you're gonna cite in your paper, and really you need every paragraph should have at least 1 citation in it, usually before your analysis. If you are using a couple of different sources in the paragraph, you can always cite source number 1, source number 2. So make sure that you cite everything that you use each paragraph. You don't have to cite after every single sentence that uses something. You can, after you're using all these sources, you can then combine them into 1 citation before your analysis of those sources. If you need help writing this paper, there's plenty of places to get that. The Writing Center does offer in-person help as well as a live chat or drop-off. For the drop-off, you need to give them 24 to 48 hours notice. and I'm going to provide the link. The link is provided in this writing prompt as well, in the assignment, so you'll be able to access that. My sample essay is also available. It's a little sample essay I wrote for a topic from another class, but you can still apply it, especially look at citations and stuff like that. You also can always get help from me. You can ask me a question, email me a question, and I'd be happy to edit any of your papers as long as you give me a 48-hour turnaround to get those back to you. Make sure you have enough time also for you to do your edits, right? So, available on this page where you got this video are also your sample essay, links to the Writing Center, and a rubric that I'll be grading you on this paper with. So check those out. Think about how to write it. If you have any more questions, let me know. And good luck writing your first paper for this class.